In the heart of Washington, a war is going on right now. On one side, you got a bloated, self-serving political elite known as the Swamp, fattening themselves at the taxpayers' expense. Our expense. On the other side, a rising force, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is currently exposing corruption, fraud, and backroom deals. This isn't politics. This is straight up robbery. In the first 3 weeks of being in operation, DOGE is already making waves across the U.S. government.
In the building behind me, Elon Musk is seizing power from the American people. To seize power for himself, we are here to fight back.
Fight, and we will win.
We will win.
We will win. We will win. We will win.
But it is barely getting started on unveiling the corruption that has existed in Washington, D.C. for decades. We have to ask ourselves, how deep do the murky waters of the swamp go?
That are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks.
Let's start at the top. The Biden family's been cashing in on political power for decades. The Hunter Biden laptop scandal? That was just the beginning. Millions funneled through shady Ukrainian and Chinese business deals, hidden through shell companies and ignored by mainstream media.
I did not know he was on the board of that company. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
But DOGE has been digging, and the money trail is real.
Right. Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So
let's be real. COVID was not just a pandemic. It was the biggest financial heist in modern history. Big Pharma made billions, politicians took payouts, and small businesses were destroyed. Suicide rate increased, while Amazon, Pfizer, and BlackRock cashed in. What happened to all that emergency funding? Where the hell did all the money go? What shall DOGE's investigation reveal? Which swamp creatures shall the money trail lead to?
But I don't think the concept of there being a lab leak is inherently a conspiracy theory. What is conspiracy is the kind of distortions of that particular subject, like it was a lab leak and I was parachuted into the CIA like Jason Bourne and told the CIA that they should really not be talking about a lab leak.
Thank you.
That's the conspiracy.
Appreciate that. Dr. Fauci, how much have you earned from royalties from pharmaceutical companies since the pandemic began in 2021?
Zero.
And let's not forget about Nancy Pelosi, who's been playing the stock market like a Wall Street shark. I mean, her portfolio outperformed Warren Buffett's by 4 times over the last decade. While average Americans struggle, she and her husband have made millions off perfectly timed trades. Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, name a tech giant, and Pelosi had a stake in it before key legislation passed. Just a coincidence, right?
Information to receive from you.
No, absolutely not. Okay.
I don't know what your point is of your question. Is there some point that you want to make with that?
Finding that 49 members of Congress and 182 senior congressional staffers have violated the Stock Act, the insider trading law. I'm wondering if you have any reaction to that, and secondly, should members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to the second one. We have a responsibility to report in the stock, on the stock, but I'm not familiar with that 5-month review, but if people aren't reporting, they should be. Because this is a free market and we're a free market economy, they should be able to participate in that.
News Nation exclusive, we headed to the hardest hit communities near Asheville, North Carolina after the devastating hurricane damage. Families there lost their homes and are now living in tent cities, struggling to stay warm, many without power or even bathrooms. Residents say they feel like they've been left behind and forgotten, waiting for government funding so they can rebuild their lives.
FEMA, the agency meant to help Americans in times of crisis, has instead been funneling money to contractors who don't deliver, botching disastrous responses, and leaving victims stranded. Hurricane Milton, Helene.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is calling on his state's Emergency Management Division to investigate what he calls the federal government's targeted discrimination toward Floridians who support Donald Trump. This comes after the Federal Emergency Management Agency confirmed that a supervisor told relief workers responding to Florida after Hurricane Milton to, quote, avoid homes with signs in support of the now president-elect.
As a result of DOGE's investigation into FEMA, this happened.
Fox News Alert moments ago, we received this together. We received a statement from the DHS regarding the $59 million sent from FEMA to New York City migrants last week. Quote, 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City.
News now, the Department of Homeland Security firing 4 FEMA employees after it was revealed they authorized $59 million in payments for luxury hotels in New York City to house migrants.
And let's not forget, while Americans struggle with inflation, Washington continues to send billions to Ukraine and Israel with no accountability. Where's the money actually going? Weapons, or back into the pockets of politicians and defense contractors?
I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. Is a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations. Help us keep American troops out of harm's way. The security package I'm sending to Congress and asking Congress to do is an unprecedented commitment to Israel's security that will sharpen Israel's qualitative military edge, which we've committed to.
The bill was passed, which called for a celebration. Will DOGE discover who laundered money through these different bills that were passed by Congress, which involved funding for other countries? Doesn't it make you wonder why our own elected officials are so enthused about supporting a foreign nation like Ukraine with our own money? At the end of the day, shouldn't our own tax dollars go back into our own country to benefit Americans before anyone else?
And let me say, every person in our nation has benefited from that work.
So here's the real question. Will the truth finally take down the swamp? Or will the justices appointed by the swamp drown out the watchdogs like DOGE before any real change happens? We're at a tipping point. The more people that wake up, the harder it is for this corruption to continue. But the swamp is known to not go down without a fight.
A really simple question. You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies, and I'm not going to agree to that, Senator.
Do what every other major country does. It's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, The problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry. And protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would... No.
Share this video, spread the truth, and stay tuned for part 2. The fight isn't over. DOGE versus the swamp is just getting started.